In the description are my three films, The Trap, Case of Death, and The Man Who Died. If you enjoy them, pass them on to other people. Much appreciated. So today's review, we're going to go through just a couple of thoughts and a couple of ideas about the movie Unbreakable. Now, Unbreakable is a film that came out, I think it came out in 2001 or 2000, starring Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and directed by, what's his name? M. Night Shyamalan. I think I'm getting that right. I don't know if I'm butchering that name or not. So it's a movie that is interesting in a way that, first off, right, let's just segue quick. First off, Bruce Willis is probably his best movie performance in this movie. He really kind of narrowed it down to this kind of depressed guy who was just like unsmiling, didn't have much to say, just walking around, walking his way through life as if is it going to be over next week? It's like he didn't even mind about death in any way whatsoever. Not that you should, right? Not that you should be bothered all too much about whether or not you're going to die or not. But in this movie, he was like waiting for it. When you see him on screen, it's like, Jesus, it's like he's waiting for the next day for himself just to pass out or have a stroke or get bad news in some way, But as the film goes on, you kind of understand why he is set, in that tone through the movie. And his performance is pretty good, man. It's pretty spectacular that he stays very, how shall I say it? He stays very much in character through the whole movie, which can be rare in some movies because if you watch movies intently and with a like a cyclopic eye on it, you'd see that people waver through their performance sometimes, and it can be confusing because when you follow a story, you want it to be coherent, not even so much the editing or the continuity issues that they may have and certain problems to do with continuity, which can break your attention. But if you see someone break character and they're not the same person, it can make you come out of the movie when the whole idea of a movie is that you stay in it, locked into it, and then at the end, you're like, come back to your own life or whatever. You leave the auditorium, the theater, or whatever, or you leave the living room where your TV is, but you're absorbed in them moments when you're watching the film. So Bruce Willis did a fine job in this movie in that area because that's just my view, of course, right? It's just my view that he did a great job. So the movie is basically a take on Superman. What if Superman didn't know that he was Superman? So if you didn't know you were a Superman, if you were a Superman in the comic book or in the movies, then you'd know, okay, you're going to be able to fly, you're going to be able to shoot red beams out of your eyeballs, right? Out of your eyeballs, and and take something out and cut a tree down or something like that. But in this movie, it's narrowed down to kind of like you can't get sick. And then the other guy on the other side of the spectrum, the bad guy, Mr. Glass, from like a comic book kind of idea. The whole film is shot very well. I'll get into that in a sec, but it's done like a comic book. So one guy is kind of like Mr. Glass, and he has to use his mind, like the arch villain in a comic book has to do. He has to use his mind to take down. And you can even see, right, just to segue tiny bit into what's going on in Europe right now. It's people's minds that have been affected to take down the countries of Europe, to get them to believe things that are not necessarily true and are at odds with their best interests, right? So the arch villain does take down Superman, or the friend of man or whatever, with his mind, not so much with his brawn, with his physicality or with his brute force. It's with the mind that it's taken down. So this film does operate in the area of it's Superman who doesn't know he's Superman, who has these qualities, has these strengths that he doesn't know he has. And one thing, just to segue into this for a tiny bit, to do with what the film is about in another area as well. There's certain areas I don't really want to get into because I want to focus just on movies a lot of the time on this channel. It focuses on that the man gives his power away, and this isn't sorry. This it doesn't focus on this, but it's a subliminal in the movie. Okay, the man gives his power away to retain and keep the woman that he is attached to. I'm not going to use the word love because love, we don't know what that means. So it's attachment. He's attached to the girl when he's younger, the younger version of Bruce Willis's character, and he gives up his superpowers, his life, so the woman and her ideology, which is more in line with, uh, you could say, kind of like communal living, right, or communism, and not getting hurt, and no one's ever going to get hurt on this planet. And he aligns himself with that. So he goes against his own nature. So that's why the Bruce Willis character, David Dunn, in the movie is not happy. He's sad. He wakes up sad every morning because he gave, his proper nature, his real essence away so a woman wouldn't leave him or because he was attached to her. It's not really ever the woman's fault in them areas because a man should not be attached to any woman. I had to learn this the hard way. I had to see reality the hard way, like a lot of men have had to see. That you can't do that, you don't do that. And if you do that, of course you can do that, but if you do that, you're going to pay a very hard price internally that you're going to have to go through, which may be necessary and is necessary in a lot of cases, right? So one of the with every superhero like Kryptonite, David Dunn, who plays basically Superman in the movie, who doesn't know he's Superman, it isn't kryptonite that is his weakness, it's water, right? Because through the theme of the movie, it's like Mr. Glass character is asking, he's trying to find out, is there someone else on the other side of the spectrum that's like him, but on the other side, that he can't get hurt because Mr. Glass has brittle bones. His bones break like glass, right? And he's got this rare disease where it's kind of like, they're way weaker than other people's bones and they're always breaking all the time. So it's hindered his life and he's very bitter about it, right? So David Dunn is like Superman, but he has a weakness and it's not kryptonite, it's water. So as the film progresses, you kind of see that David Dunn does start to embrace his real essence as a man in the movie, right? So there's so many things in this film that are really interesting. I think it's your man's best movie, M. Night Shyamalan. I know I'm butchering that name. Apologies for that. I think it's his best film. I think it's one of his best films, or at least it's his best film, because it is shot beautifully as well. And when I mean it's shot beautifully, it's not just the cinematography and the lighting and the light decisions and selections and stuff. What I mean is that if you watch the film intently and properly, right, there's a great use of, just say one scene, for instance, right, when the mother is talking to the younger version of Samuel L. Jackson's character in the movie, it's shot through a TV screen, and you can't really see what's going on. You can hear the dialogue correctly, but you can't see as well as you want to see. And that's kind of showing you the Superman element and the comic book element as well. And there's other shots where there's a lot of the camera moving from one section to another section and keeping it in one shot as much as they can, like with the train sequence at the start. And there's a lot of one shot elements in it. And there's another shot, to say, for instance, where there's like a football game going on and the son is talking to the father way up in the distance on the top of these steps, and you can hear the dialogue, even though they're really far away, closely. And in the foreground, the kids with the football player, you can barely hear them too much, but it's done in one shot. It could have been done with loads of cuts there and explaining it with loads of cuts. So there's a lot of just one shots in the film. So they get away with just one shot where they can. Obviously, you can't do that all the time in any movie. You have to cut where the viewer needs to go so it can tell the story in an accurate way, right? So this is a movie I watched many, many years ago. And when I watched it years ago, it was on repeat. I kept watching it. I just thought it was great, right? And I kind of knew years ago as well that it was based on the Superman theme, and it is Superman, really. So it's like another Superman movie. So, in my view, I think it's the best film that Bruce Willis has ever done. I think his performance is fantastic in it. I think it's a marvelous movie. And if you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. And if you haven't, get it and check it out. It's really worth watching. Adios for now.